evening. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, October 23rd, 2018, Town of Rockport Board of Selectmen's meeting. If everyone could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Oh yeah, thank you, sorry. First on the agenda this evening, public comment period. Toby?
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. Is this working?
Yep.
Good. At your workshop meeting last week discussing a possible sewer overlay district, or at any rate the sewer capacity, you, Madam Chairman, twice remarked that there was nothing presently preventing the DPW commissioners from authorizing additional connections to the sewer. Yes and no. It's not altogether accurate. As we all now know, if you own property fronting on a street with a sewer in it, you're legally entitled to connect, and the commissioners can't say no to you. If they said no, they'd be inviting a lawsuit, which the town would lose. But then there are the connections which are not by right, and it occurs to me that at the 2017 annual town meeting, there was a petition article. One of the petitioners, Eric Hutchins, is here, that asked that the commissioners and the DPW commissioners and the planning board jointly study the issue of a possible sewer overlay district, or at any rate, the sewer capacity. And that article also asked the commissioners to refrain from any connections to the sewer that were not by right. So as we know, that's not legally binding, but it's a vote of the town meeting, and this is supposed to be a democracy. So unless a vote of the town meeting runs directly contrary to the law, I would think that local officials would feel morally, if not legally, bound by it. So much for that. The other thing about the petition article was it asked for this study.
Act like we're acting morally
That's right.
inappropriate. We're going to end it, but
I agree.
you can continue for now.
Go ahead.
The other thing about the article was that it asked for this study. And here we are. Is it 6 or 8 months later, or is it 9 months later, and we haven't even reached the starting line. The DPW commissioners and the planning board have yet to sit down together, and unfortunately the planning board was not invited to your workshop. I think
That's not true, Toby, and let's stop right there, okay? They were invited, and I've spoken to them. They absolutely were invited.
They were invited, and their representative who was supposed to be here for that portion of the meeting wasn't here.
Correct.
But they were invited, and they knew they were invited.
When I brought the issue up at the planning board last Thursday, Jason Shaw, looking daggers at me, said that they had not been invited.
I spoke to Jason Shaw at that meeting. I spoke to Herm Lilia. I spoke to the entire board, and I talked with Mitch. They absolutely knew about it. They absolutely knew that they were supposed to be there. So if you're going to talk about things, say the truth. Don't talk about what you think should be the truth. I've had enough of this from you, Toby. I got to tell you. Toby, I've had enough of this from you. You come up here and you will... I will abuse whatever I want right now because I'm tired of you coming up here and assaulting the Board of Selectmen. You think we all... And you can sit there and smirk, Toby, if you like. You think it's funny, but it's not.
I don't think
You do think it's
That's
funny.
enough. That's enough.
I agree with you. I think it is deplorable the way you act.
Okay, that's enough. Anyone else? Eric?
Eric Hutchins, 45 Pools Lane. Just a quick a suggestion as a follow-up from some of the Long Beach stuff that I've been doing my best to follow for the past couple of years. And one thing that really came apparent to me, I have not been able to attend their meetings because they've been mostly in the daytime, that committee. I have been looking.
Right.
And as you know, I did storm damage assessment for the town for over 10 years, so I'm at least somewhat familiar with the issues associated with coastal resiliency. One of the things that certainly stood out to me is that the town received a relatively significant grant that didn't require a town meeting or any discussion at town meeting level, and it resulted in some relatively technical specifications for a wall, which is not a bad step at some point. But what I'd like to suggest is needed by this town is conceptual workshops on the alternatives before we're proceeding with technical specifications.
I think that you might have missed the initial workshop. I think actually several people did. Because we had an initial workshop with the
I
Long
attended that
Beach.
meeting as well, and,
Okay.
I spoke at that meeting. That was not a public workshop other than a 40, this,
Well, it wasn't, just to be clear, it was a public workshop. The public was it was a workshop, and the public did have public comment. So I don't want people to think that
I understand.
there are like secret meetings
Yeah,
going on
yeah,
about
well-
Long Beach, because the opposite is true.
Yeah, no, I went to that one as well. What I'm getting at is, I do a lot of dam removal work, as you know, that are projects of the scale and scope of maybe rebuilding this. These are not 45-minute meetings between two boards where the public gets 2 minutes to talk. This is large-scale visioning when you're talking a project of this scale and scope, as you saw from many of the public that spoke that evening who are involved citizens in this town, FinCom and others. This really, I believe, needs some broad scale. I'm not even here advocating one alternative or the other. We have basic information that needs to be put out on a spreadsheet for people to say, really think, how would we pay for this? That's one option. Do we want it? Is this good for the environment? Is it good for the, I don't know what the answer is, but
Right.
I wouldn't even want to be in your shoes at the rate we're going forward with this without having that first. I believe that's needed.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
agree with you. I don't think we're to that point exactly yet. I think that committee was, their result was the first step, and then we've talked about getting some consultants to look into other alternatives, and then we would kind of put a list together of the of our options.
Okay, and just that summary there is, I'm a little afraid we went into too much design and specification versus, I mean, right now you can just say it's 30 to 50 million. Who cares what the technical specs are?
If I just real quick, that's because that's what their charge was. We talked about at that meeting that this is a multifaceted project, and that's what their charge was. So they fulfilled what they were asked to do.
Right.
And from there, now we'll figure out what we could do. Denise brought it up about other alternatives. I mean, is there a natural way to do this? What other alternatives? And I think you're a great resource for that, Eric. I really do.
Well,
And I'd love to hear what you have to say,
Well,
especially
no,
with the
no one has
backside.
asked, though. I keep coming to meetings and offering.
How's this, Eric?
Not
I'm
a single
asking.
person.
Well, I still
None.
think- no, I disagree, but okay.
Thank you. One other thing, real briefly. I have asked that the Board of Selectmen, if possible, in the future, in near future, put on their agenda an opportunity to discuss the potential designation for National Historic Register of Dogtown, that the town has provided some support letters. There's some obvious information going around that's
Yeah.
not transparent.
Yeah, and I think Mitch said you're going to get that on the
Okay.
calendar. Just make sure the timeline works
Yeah.
for you, because I know you had said that you weren't totally ready for it, right? Or is it good now to schedule it?
You will just need to schedule. I want to be
Okay,
there.
perfect.
Yeah, so
Great.
we're looking in November, but we're also juggling the senator and the rep for November, so we're
Got it.
trying to make
Okay.
everything fit.
Great.
Just keep me
Perfect.
posted. And
Okay.
I really would like to be there.
Yeah,
and help with that, 'cause I have a lot of
Perfect.
background.
No, definitely. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Public comment? Okay. Moving on. Conservation Commission. Is Dan here?
Two of us are here, but
Where the heck is Dan?
good question.
All right, why don't we, I know he knows it's tonight, so
Yeah.
why don't we'll move on and just wait a little while. Does that make sense? Sure. Approval of minutes, September 4th, 2017.
I move that, oh, sorry, I move that the selectmen approve the minutes of September 4th, 2018.
Seconded?
Motion has been made and seconded. Any edits or changes?
I'm good.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. September 17th.
Let me do that one.
Yes, please.
I move that Selectmen approve the minutes of September 17th, 2018.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any changes in those? I think I was just late to that one, right? But I think hold on. I'm having trouble with my.
Yes, you were late.
I was late, but I came. Yeah. Any changes to those?
No? I'm
Okay,
good.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. And then October 9th, which was, October 9th. Is there a motion?
I move that Selectmen approve the minutes of October 9th, 2018.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Okay, any edits or changes?
Nope.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Next, we have Selectmen and Town Administrators updates and liaison reports.
I'll jump in. Ladies first. I'll go ladies first. How's that?
I have nothing.
Denise?
Yeah, we met, the insurance work group met, I think that was just yesterday. Can't remember. Yeah, yesterday. And so we're making good progress, I think. I think the broker from Maya, MIIA, was in, and we, poor guy, we asked him a lot of questions, got a grilling. And we expect to have some suggestions to bring to the Board of Selectmen in time for December.
Great.
Mm.
That's exciting. Don?
Me. Well, let's get the exciting stuff first, and then we'll move on to the others. Selectman Campbell signed the payroll warrant number 16 totaling $113,711.92, and expense warrant number 16 totaling $99,502.21 on October 16th, 2018. That's that. I went to a planning board meeting last week, and we were talking about, there was a lot of things being talked about, but transit-oriented development is something that's coming about very quickly here, and the presentation will happen in this very room on the 25th at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that, it's nice to see a vision for Rockport moving forward, and people cooperating to get things done, to make this a better place. And I think, that's just one step, and this may change in drastic ways, but everybody should be informed. And this is one of those meetings that, it's going to affect a lot of people, and you should be there and make an effort to just hear it up front. So that's that one. And I think that's all I have for right now. So I'm good.
Great,
I'm brief.
great. That's it.
Madam Chair, I do have one item. I am looking to provide the board an update on our plans moving forward for the FY20 operating budget. So we're taking a bit of a different approach as we look at things this year. In the past, we've had the board approve a certain percentage increase that would be allowed for expenses, and it was somewhat of a blanket approval for expenses. In the past, we've said, okay, 1%, if you need it, you can apply to your expense lines. So we're taking a bit of a different approach this year. And instead of applying or seeking to have the board approve a blanket percentage increase, working with the departments, and we'll be sending a memo out to them to have them provide justifications for any increases that they may need. So instead of a blanket approach, take some time to go back and really look into the lines to make sure that they're properly budgeted. And if there's a need, that you bring it forward, you let us know. My long-term goal for that is to minimize the year-end transfers that we end up processing. Because of the constraints that we've had with percentages in some past practice, larger issues or larger things that have been needed by departments are addressed in this kind of year-end transfer piece, which is not something that we ideally want to do. It's happened. It is what it is. But if we can mitigate that a bit by at least identifying what some of those items are up front, and if, for example, we truly need something in one department and that's a 3.25% increase, we'll review that as part of our overall amount, and we'll consider that accordingly, versus saying simply take the 1% across the board and go that way. Yeah. The other change that we're also looking at is requiring inside SoftWrite in the budget module. There's a memo line for each individual line, and we're having departments go through. We told them earlier in the summer so that they had some time to work on it. Providing justification and identifying what is in each of these lines. Not, my office supply line, I buy 5 boxes of paper clips. We're not looking for that necessarily, but we're looking for a broad description so that anybody not associated with that particular department can look at it and understand. And we have a lot of budget lines that are identically named across departments. For example, purchase of services. I use purchase of services one way in the TABOS budget. Joe uses it differently in his. The police chief uses it differently in his. So it's important for us to provide some background and some information in that. So I think that will help, certainly help the office. It will help the board. It will help the finance committee get a better understanding of where some of these individual lines, how they're being used. Again, all towards the goal of better understanding, letting everybody see what's there, and minimizing the tweaks we'll have to make. We have a large budget. There'll always be tweaks,
Yeah.
but if we can minimize that, and if there's truly something that a department needs, I'd rather know about that up front. Even if we aren't able to accommodate it all at once, it's at least on the radar. Instead of having something kind of go through and, well, wait, hey, where'd that $10,000 transfer go at the end of the year? Let's address it up front.
Smart.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
You said that we're looking at a potential that you would allow, or it's being talked about for a 1% increase, and it has to be justified. But
So, if
tell
I
me
could
where-
just clarify that one piece.
Yeah.
In the past, we've done
Yeah.
an automatic 1%. We've said you can do 1%. You can apply up to 1% to your expense lines, or X number. In the last 2 years, it's been 1%. Instead of that blanket percentage, I'm saying that we're not planning to do that this year. That it would be review your lines and appropriately justify them. If there's something that is significant that we need, we'll consider that in the review process. But I'm not looking to have us do a blanket percentage this year. I think
I accept that, and I think that's a good approach. But why aren't we asking for an across-the-board decrease in budget? Why can't we ask for a 2% decrease to look at your budget to see where we can take money out of the budget?
So I think as part of this review, as
There
part
it
of
is. I just texted you.
as part of reviewing what's in the lines, that'll give us an idea on if everything in it is needed. Because part of reviewing what you have and part of providing the memos for justification, they're in essence justifying what they have. So that'll at least give us a better idea. Instead of saying go in and do across the board 2%, we may be able to go in and do some targeted adjustments in lines and departments. I'm not comfortable at this point saying go in and do an across the board reduction without knowing fully what the lines are used for. I have a general idea. I see all the regular transfers that come through, but I need to see from the department head's perspective what's coming out of those lines. Then we can have the conversations of, okay, I see that you've budgeted X amount in this line, say $10,000 in this line. Consistently over the past 3 years, you've used $3,000. Let's talk about that and do some targeted adjustments versus a.
I agree that getting a clearer picture on what they are using the money for is important, but I also think that we need to kind of back off a little bit as far as, allowing the increase in the budget and see if we can just kind of rein it in a little more, seeing of the times that we're coming up upon. That's all. So once you get a clearer picture of things, I get it.
Sure.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But I would hope that after that, and that those projections are made, that maybe we can look at that.
Well, wait, are you suggesting a labor decrease?
Just
I'm
like-
suggesting wherever the decrease comes from, whether it's labor or operating costs or whatever it happens to be, if we can find ways to decrease the budget.
Yeah, so operating is labor.
Okay, I understand, but so if we can find ways to decrease this, then I think that would be a great way to approach it.
Okay, so, go ahead. I mean, I just personally think if we're gonna do that, that's a whole different type of,
Exercise.
Sure,
Yeah.
and I think
Okay.
that, we may end up at that point down the road, but I think at this point, let's see what's in the lines, let's get an understanding and an idea, and then we can, look at how we move forward, whether it's a blanket reduction that's needed, a blanket increase that's needed, or some targeted, my plan now is to do some targeted reviews. Because there are also some one-time reviews, one-time things that I'm looking to do operationally to look at some particular areas that need some further review, so.
Yep, and it's a great approach, thank you.
So barring any
Great.
objection from the board, that's my plan to move forward.
no, sounds good,
Good.
thanks. Great. Dan is here. I just texted you, Dan, so you can ignore my text. But is it Rich, are you here for the road race? Yeah, so why don't we do that so you don't have to, wait, we can move, if you want to. No, not at all, not at all. So this is approval of the Twin Lights Half Marathon on April 27th, 2019. Does someone want to make the motion?
Sure. I move that the board approve the Twin Lights Half Marathon to enter into Rockport on April 27th, 2019.
Seconded. Motion has been made and seconded. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you. So I'm requesting that we host the race again next year. It starts and finishes over at Good Harbor Beach in Gloucester. We've been given approval from the city of Gloucester to host the race again. The last couple of years, the date moved further into May, but when it was first started, it was at the end of April, so I'm pushing it back to the last weekend in April again.
Great. And hopefully you'll have good weather by then.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Hopefully no snow, right? And as far as I know, this one went well. I don't think we had any issues with this one. Yeah, and I know you work closely with the police and everything.
Yeah, they're a great help.
Yeah, great. Are there any questions or concerns about this? No? Everyone here going to run the half marathon?
Oh, yeah. I'm in training.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, and good luck. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okey doke. Now why don't we have Conservation Commission? Welcome. It's working hard, Dan, or hardly working? You should bring everyone up there and then just make sure and introduce everyone, of course.
Obviously, it's been insane. I was here early and dressed for this. However, it's been busy. So my phone number has been changed. So you texted somebody else, probably in Idaho. But
Oh, you know what? I actually sent you another text recently that you didn't respond to. I thought maybe we just
wasn't
weren't
snubbing
friends.
you.
I just thought maybe we weren't friends anymore, but I'll have to get your new number.
Sure.
Okay. Can you just introduce yourself and then the other members
Okay.
for
Armand DeParo, 8 Brooks Road. I'm the chairman of the Conservation Commission.
William Rule, 53 Marmion Way.
And Sarah Damassa, 119 South Street.
And Sarah, you were just recently appointed.
Yeah,
not-
January?
Yeah, and I think I wasn't here. I feel like I maybe wasn't here for one of those meetings. I'm not sure. So welcome to all of you. Thank you.
You were in this hot seat not
Hot
that long
seat.
ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
So, okay, it's actually going along very well. The Conservation Commission we've had our number of challenges, yet I have to say I think that they're being handled professionally. You will recall the issue that we're having down on Granite Street with the tool company. Again,
Dan, could you speak into
handled
the mic?
professionally.
Well, you have to speak kind of
Got to speak into this thing.
But yeah, there you go.
Used to that.
That's better.
But there's a couple of items that we've been discussing that we would like to bring to your attention. Really 2 items in general. First being the boardwalks across the marshes at Saratoga Creek. So these boardwalks, you voted on these, that you would take some action about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So the Conservation Commission's kind of in a holding pattern saying, well, where should we run with this? If we issue enforcement orders for the property owners, then you'd have to understand that we'd have to issue an enforcement order against the town of Rockport because those boardwalks are on town-owned property.
land.
So we're stuck in a kind of catch-22. So what we'd really like is for the town to kind of work with us to resolve this issue. If these homeowners have deeded rights to a boardwalk, well, then they can have it, I guess.
And that's what town council had said, right?
That is
Because
correct.
basically town council said if someone had deed of rights and we fought them, we would be opening a can of worms,
Well,
for lack of a better.
okay. So they're not built properly. There is an actual approved way to build a boardwalk, and none of these are approved. So first, if they don't have deeded rights, we would like town council, along with the Board of Selectmen, to speak up and say, no, you don't have deeded rights, and it's time to remove these items not only off your property, but off town-owned property.
So here's a question though, and this is kind of goes back to our dealing with the historic commission recently. How long have some of them been there? Do we know? I think it's like decades, right?
Mike Rasico actually he issued a permit for one of them without a hearing or anything, because he was looking for the fees, if you will, but the actual number of years, I don't have
Yeah,
that.
I mean, that's probably the most recent, right?
Again, we find ourselves at a crossroad
Yeah,
where if
yeah.
we issue an enforcement order, If we go down that route, well, then we've got to issue one against the
Right,
town.
and
And
then
we're
we're
really
talking a lot
not
of money.
interested in that battle of wills. So what we're asking for is to contact town council, find out up or down, yes or no. At that point in time, we can start the process of enforcement on our end.
Or, given that they are on public land, that they allow the public to use them. I mean,
Excellent
it
question.
needs to make
Properly, right?
Build them properly and
Yeah,
allow the
have to be
public to
built
use them.
properly.
This is a question that we can't answer. This is town council.
Well, that,
I mean, I
that
think we have
seems-
to
that
have
would be a
town
good
council in to
question for them.
discuss this, because I think we're talking about something that some of these may have been here for decades and decades, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
I just want to look at, the whole picture
Sure.
before we're,
So we really need some direction from.
yeah, no, yeah, and I think we, at this point, probably need updated information from town council, right? Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Total sense.
Yeah.
How many are there, Dan, right now?
It's right here.
Just four now?
Four,
Because some of
Four.
them
Yeah.
have,
But one of them is pretty new, according, I don't know when this photo was taken.
Correct. There
But,
was one
um,
that was just recently put out.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and they just did it without seeking approval?
There's been no approval from us.
Well,
Yeah.
to my mind, that one should go.
Well, that's not, yeah.
yeah.
But that's a question for town council as well.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
right?
needs to get the full
Because
scope
A,
of
I
it.
think we need to look at the whole situation and look at our options and what it's gonna cost, right? I mean, I don't know.
And the next item is Penzance Road.
Hold on one second. Any more, hold on one sec. Any more comments from the board on that?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
The boardwalks? Just because I know we've gone back and forth on this one for years, but, and I remember the last action we took, but then I wasn't sure what kind of came of it. Do you have a comment or question?
Well, I'd just like to just add some
Really
information.
brief.
So I actually went through my files on this very topic, which may help fill some gaps.
Okay, really
Um,
briefly.
Just briefly. I went back and looked at some of my emails. I have emails back to 2008, so I'm going back decades now. I've been looking at the boardwalks since prior to 2008, and I've been brought it to the attention of the Concom, even when I used to go all the time, and everyone's been slowly looking at it, but it's been over 10 years now. All of the boardwalks have been damaged and/or rebuilt over this 10-year period. All of them would have required a permit at some point from the Concom, so they're basically in violation at that point alone, and it's encroachment on town property. And they don't meet standards for building piers over, as Dan mentioned. So just wanted to fill that gap in, that they've all been damaged. Some have been completely pulled out. They put them back in the summer. The other thing to think about here, in particular, is at least two of them, clearly, they can just walk down the road.
Well, but, okay, we're not, let's end
Right,
it there.
but that's-
Thanks.
as an alternative,
Right, but
you're
we're
already
not,
talking about how to
right,
grant them
right,
the
but that's
overlay.
not the point of the meeting tonight. The point isn't to discuss the boardwalk, this is just an update with Concom. I don't want to get into specific issues, otherwise it's not appropriate, unless we've noticed all of the people who own the boardwalks to come in and be here for the discussion. Toby, really very quick question or comment?
Toby Arzenian, 95 Granite Street, going on from where Eric Hutchins left off, and the lacking of permission for these structures. They're all on tidelands. The salt marsh is tidelands. Anything below mean high water requires a Chapter 91 permit. So it would be a legitimate question, have any of them permits? And the fact that they've got the structures on town property, as Armand Aparo alluded to, makes you guilty as well.
Okay. I know that was going there. Okay, next.
Okay. Penzance Road. Recently at the, 2 meetings, it's been 2 meetings, the blanket work agreement for the Department of Public Works allows for the Penzance Road to be cleared. Roads are exempt from wetlands protection. That is, if items, stones, debris is thrown onto the road, it can be cleared as just a matter of fact. But what we did was we extended it for 1 more year, as we have done in the past. After lots of discussion with the board, we've decided that as of next year, we would like to look at this item separately. And we would like to add in some language in the event of catastrophic failure of Penzance Road. At that point in time, we would like to have the broader conversation relative to Penzance Road. It isn't a matter of if, it's simply a matter of when. Now, as far as we're concerned, public safety trumps all, and it will always be first and foremost. And so this conversation really needs to have your fire department, your police, ambulance, and everybody at this table when we're talking about Penzance Road. It's an eventuality that Henry's Pond will become part of the coast. It's just going to happen. There's enough photographic evidence to show that this is occurring. But as long as, you know, and this was our feeling when I was on the board, it's a road, it's going to stay a road until it's not a road. So I think, again, this is one of those things that it's been a problem. It's been an issue. I don't want to say a problem, but it has to be looked at very carefully, especially going into the future. And there has to be some cost-benefit analysis, if you will. Where's the future of this road?
Yeah, so I just have a procedural question. So you said that roads are exempt.
Correct.
So is it legal for the town to unexempt it? Does that make sense? Because you said that you'd like to look at that road separately.
No,
so
no,
is
we're going to be looking at this from your blanket repair. So you have an order of conditions that allows for blanket repair across the town. But this is one of those things that, again, in a catastrophic failure, when we have a breach of Henry's Pond, where does repair and total rebuild? That's a conversation we're going to have sooner than later. I'd rather have an understanding and a guideline, if you will, of what we're going to do, rather than after an event say, well, where do we go now?
Right. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So you're talking about pulling it out of your blanket.
We were talking,
Approval.
no, we're not interested in pulling it out of the blanket. We're interested in adding in some language in the event of catastrophic failure.
But for just that road.
Just that one
Right.
particular item.
Okay, so that would
That's-
probably be.
and while we have-
That would probably be a conversation as well to get some legal information on before we all sit down at the table as well.
This has been a
Yeah.
conversation. This is
Okay.
not a direction that we're
Yeah,
having.
yeah. No, that's interesting. Okay, all right.
And do you see, is that the most vulnerable point of town that we have from the perspective of breach? Is that, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, I agree with it. What do you see as the other spots that could be as vulnerable or close to?
I think that when you look at an event like the 91 storm, I was fishing at that point in time, there was lobster traps and trees. There
Well,
was-
right, I mean, there are lots
So-
of spots in town now that, Back Beach, T
right,
Wharf.
yeah,
Dock
Yeah.
Square.
You know,
yeah.
Right, but they're
we
not,
have to-
no, right, no, I get it, but I mean, and I agree, because, when the DPW came, we were gonna pave the road, and thankfully, we didn't do that, and then the storm came right
Yeah.
after that, and it kinda wiped everything out at that
Yeah.
point. It's a storm like that the next one like that could be that storm, and I understand that, so.
So here and again, we clearly recognize that there's economic value to these items. We thrive off of our tourism industry. That clearly that beach is an important component of our overall well-being. But we're reaching the point where we really feel, and it's going to happen. There will be a complete breach. And when that happens, I'd like to have this resolved, or I'd like to have an action plan prior to this happening, rather than scrambling at the last moment. Do I think that there's going to be, in an event like that, problems on Long Beach? Do I think Back Beach? I mean, yeah, we're going to be facing a lot. But that particular one it's a weak link, and we know it's coming, and it's important because it is a road, and it's recognized as a road. So again, as long as it's a road and recognizes that, you will have the ability to repair and maintain.
So I have a
Yeah,
question.
go ahead, yeah.
So you're saying that it's inevitable, that it's going to happen, but I have a question. I don't know if anybody can answer this, but if we were to stop armoring that beach and stop repairing that road, would that then allow, so not have it be a road anymore, would that then allow the beach to kind of more naturally move as it wants to move and therefore hinder the breach. Is that is that also a possibility if we
Do
were?
I believe that? Absolutely. I think as we continue to, the popples wash over into Henry's Pond and we build a road.
Yeah.
And you're sort of taking away the natural protection
Right.
but here and again, it's, everything's changing. I mean,
I understand.
change is
that.
inevitable.
No, I understand that, but I guess it depends on what our priorities are.
And
And
it's the
so-
priorities really
Right.
of the Board of Selectmen, along with the priorities of the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
I'd like them to be in concert rather than
Yeah.
them be two opposing forces.
So, to my mind, one of my priorities would be to prevent the breach and consider the implications of not reinforcing it every single time there's a storm. I don't know all the implications. I've heard that there are safety implications. I don't know why there are lots of places where you only have one way to get there, like my street, which is dead end. And, the snow a couple years ago got so high that over the road, even after it got plowed, that we had to have a front end loader come in to clear the road because it blew across the road. It was 5 feet high. So there are lots of roads where there's only one access point.
Well, here and again, this is why I raise the issue
Yep.
of safety
No, I
being
appreciate
first and
that.
Well, no, and I
foremost.
think part of the safety, I think in terms of our discussions in the past, which is probably back when Dan and I were on the board together, there were kind of two safety issues. First was police, fire, ambulance like to have as many options as possible.
Sure.
So it already exists. It's easy, they can get multiple ways. But that's still a public beach. So even if we were to say, 5, 10 years, whatever from now, it becomes a natural beach and merges with Henry's Pond, it's still a public beach. And the fear is that if we're locked out on both ends with private property, that safety getting down too, because people are still going to use it as a beach.
Right.
So it's more of a big,
Yeah.
but that we should probably pull into the discussion as
Yeah.
well, and town council with access down to there
Right.
if the road is.
But there's a piece of property on one end of the beach, I can't think of the ordinal,
So,
north end, that is not buildable because it's gonna, and I would think we could buy that property from the owner.
Maybe, exactly, but
You know
that's
what I
what
mean?
we
So
should, so we would
consider
have
the
access.
options.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And that may be what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It may be that the beach moves and
Yeah.
so does our access.
Right.
But the other thing too is that the other access to those houses down there is another waterway, which is the other cove there by
Loblolly.
Loblolly.
Oh, right, which
And
floods out as
and
well. That was
floods
the
out
other safety
as well
problem.
on a big storm. And then
Exactly.
there would be no ambulance, police, or
Yes.
fire access
Yes.
to all of those houses in that area. There's
Right.
no other street that cuts through down to there. So those are all things that
It's
have
all
to be
things,
thought of
but,
and
you know,
discussed.
just
Yep.
more to deal with.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not.
again, this is
Add it to the list
back
this
when
week.
Buy a police boat, fire boat.
back when the parking lot
Yeah.
was pretty much annihilated when you and I were first on the board. And there
What
a-
was? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
The
you.
parking lot at Seaview Street for Long Beach.
Oh, yeah.
When that, and I can remember going to that meeting, and it was a lively meeting. But my feelings were then, and they haven't changed now. I don't care what it takes, but because those beaches are used 12 months a year. If an ambulance can't get there, and we've had people die on that beach,
Yeah, we are.
that is, in my opinion, incredibly irresponsible.
Yep.
Right.
So, again, my feelings are I'd like to work together. I'd like to come up with some type of an action plan and weigh all of the issues out. Again, police and fire and ambulance will weigh heavily into this.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you think this constitutes a workshop for something like this? Or what would be the approach to this to kind of get this done? Because, part of the reason of having these boards and commissions come in and
Yeah.
talk is to
Yeah.
bring problems to us that we can help with. This is one of those problems. So now let's take action on it. So what would be the best next step for this? I'll ask Sarah, Mitch,
Well, I was going to
and
say, I know
Denise,
we're making
Ruthie.
some changes really soon with the emergency services
Correct.
department, so my guess would be as soon as we do that, to kind of all sit at the table together.
Yep.
And
Agreed.
I think it would be helpful if in the meantime, you guys could get any questions you would have on this for council, and any of us could think of any, and we could get them to Mitch, so he could get them to council in advance, and we could determine whether it has to be a meeting that they're at, or just provide us answers to questions. Like with our sewer meeting last week, like we kind of debate whether or not we have to spend the money to have council at the meeting, which sometimes it's really valuable, but it's always valuable to get them questions ahead of time.
That really stinks. Sorry.
So I think that would be a helpful exercise on both ends. And then I think we're going to be doing some emergency services stuff when? November?
November, yes.
Yeah. So, and then, so after that, we should probably get a workshop on the going.
Yes, and Madam Chair, and it would certainly be definitely, I would say, critical to get the questions ahead of time.
Yeah,
So the council is as
definitely.
prepared as possible.
Yeah. And can determine if we need to pay for them to come or not.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice to have them at every meeting, but it doesn't kind of work that way. Sure, Sarah.
Does the town have, maybe Jerry has, an aerial photo record of that area
We do.
going back a number of years? Because that would be the most helpful
That'd be helpful.
in terms of
Yeah.
watching the progression of
Some GIS would
popples
have.
and beach and
Or
whatnot,
Jerry.
pond.
Yeah.
That
So
they're
just-
actually,
know how they store
there's a lot of
how they
photographic
store
Yeah,
evidence.
so a time sequence.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
Larry sent a link to a state asset, online asset
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
shows
Right.
shoreline
Right,
change
right.
from
Yeah,
18.
that's right. So we've got the computer.
Oh,
the
cool,
computer
really?
Data,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of good data out there.
Larry's got some cool stuff up his sleeve.
It does.
So yeah, so I think that's obviously really smart to all get on the same page together. And I know that public safety will be. They were furious does not even say it correctly that they weren't here the night we voted on the paving. Like regardless of the vote, they just like public safety is their number one priority, and like I know that they want to be involved obviously in every discussion. So. Okay. Next. Anything else? You're like, besides that, we're.
What's going on?
Not much going on.
Yeah, Sarah or William, do you guys have anything else? Is there anything else we can do for you? I'll give you a quick, do you have just a quick question or?
Just on this, just briefly, obviously, it's another one I've been following for about 23 years now. I want to thank Dan for coming in tonight on this topic, which is fantastic. Him and I have done some sparring on it, but the bottom line is I fully support what he's asking for, is the dialogue. And I've asked this board, if you remember, Sarah, before the election last year, you said, I came in and you said you would actually put this on the agenda last February. It never made it on the agenda. So I was trying to get this on the agenda before this even came up for your new permit, knowing that this needs to take place. So I just want to get that out there. I've been asking for this forum, and I think it's fantastic. Thank you, both of you.
Great.
But just a couple of quick things since I've done the photographic documentation there for about 15 years. One thing for certain, since people are looking at us on the camera, is any single time that Loblolly Road got material on it, Penzance was already gone. Every single time that any storm, so it is not an alternative on any documented storm in about 20 years now. There's never a case, just so anyone that's watching this on camera, that it's the alternative during a storm event. It's not passable on any storm. It's gonzo. One other point, and I'll sit down. The other is I do keep hearing at these public forums about we need to protect the beach. Maintaining of the road is what is destroying the public asset, which is the beach, because we're holding a road at an angle it does, and a dune at an angle it doesn't want to be. Beaches want to have a certain angle to hold sand, the kind that the public likes to sit on. By holding that road where it is, we're forcing a different angle of repose on the beach. That's why it's all cobble and junk, why we're losing the public asset. I asked, the reason I want this dialogue to happen is so that there's the opportunity for the public to chime in. Their permit extension legally does not allow the public to chime in. To allow it to be reviewed as an individual permit again, just like anybody else would, they're extending a permit. An extension of a permit does not allow public comment. I have no legal transparency with an extended permit, and totally within their right to extend this. It's now been extended for 6 or 7 years now. I can't comment on it legitimately. I can informally, but a permit would allow the public transparency to comment. DEP says we can't do anything either. It's an extension. We do not usurp the town's authority. So I just want a new permit sometime so we can comment. That's all.
So,
Okay.
just for absolute clarity, okay, we are looking at this, and we're talking about adding language, but honestly, there's some important seats at this table, and I can't look another individual in the face when they've just lost somebody they love, and they said, you didn't do everything you could have done. And for me, it's public safety, and that will always be the top priority. And I need to say that, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Hutchins, but really, it's going to be ambulance, police, and fire. And that's gonna have a lot to do with how I weigh in on this item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Quick question. So when does the permit extension go through now?
We just voted on that. Yeah, about a month ago, about a month. So there's 11 months. So if we have an issue this winter, you'll be able to get through this
Okay.
winter. So we have time.
Right,
Time
because I mean,
is
this
on our
is something
side.
we're obviously going to tackle
No, it's
over the
not.
winter.
It's
Right,
not.
it's not.
It's not on the
right.
front burner.
Yeah, well,
But it has
But
to
it
be.
really, the
Yeah.
discussion needs to happen.
got it. Okay, great. Yep.
Great.
I mean, to me, this shouldn't be a long, drawn-out discussion. I mean, it takes quite a bit of thought and analysis, but this is not, this is something that reasonable minds can come to reasonable solutions with public input. You know, you hear from people, from the public, we could put this together in a reasonable amount of time. Is that not correct?
I'm good with that.
I would think so, really.
My only fear is I just don't want something like this, as a lot of things seem to go, to get drawn out in perpetuity to arrive at a decision.
No, I think that our goals are pretty clear and straightforward.
Good,
Right.
Okay.
Great,
good.
okay,
Thanks, Dan,
great.
Thanks.
and everybody.
Members, do you
Yeah.
have
I know
anything else?
Laura just arrived. Hi, Laura. Anything else from anyone, or we?
So this was the Penzance Road
Yes.
discussion that I
Yeah,
was doing dishes. I should
that's okay.
Okay.
That's all right.
Can you pass her a mic, slide that mic down to her, if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course. It's not going to go away anytime
To
soon.
go away. So everybody can fill me in on,
You have to speak
Oh.
closer. Yep.
everybody can fill me in on where things
Yeah,
stand.
they, yep,
Yes.
they can fill you in.
So we'll just
Great.
go with that right now.
Great.
Yeah, great. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks again
Thank
for
you.
your
Everybody.
continued
Thank you.
service.
That number?
Yeah, yeah. Do you still have my number?
No, I lost my phone, that's why.
It's
now
on
I
the
got a new
website.
phone.
It's on the website. So is mine, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys. Okay. Oh, I thought we appointed Jen Perry already, no?
No, we interviewed her.
We interviewed
That,
her.
like, beautiful, amazing interview. Would someone like to make the motion to appoint her?
Is that mine?
I move that the board appoint Jen Perry for a term on the Council of Aging to expire on June 20th, 2020.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Warrant for the state election on November 6th, 2018.
I move that the Board of Selectmen sign the warrant for the state election on November 6, 2018.
Seconded.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And 96 Long Beach lease to reflect a change of address.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and sign a lease for 96 Long Beach with Robin A. Davis to reflect a change of address.
Seconded.
Motion has been made and seconded. And did I see in the paperwork for that Norms Davis passed away?
He did,
Oh,
unfortunately.
that's too bad. We send our condolences.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Anything else? Any other business or announcements?
Go Sox.
Go Sox. We have no meeting next week.
Correct.
I don't know how many people will see this, but there is no organized downtown trick-or-treating this year on the weekend. it kind of like inadvertently turned into a circus with someone put it online and people were literally coming, like hundreds of people from out of town.
wow.
And the shop owners were overwhelmed with, like I was downtown with my kids, called the police and was like, you have to send police down here. And there were probably hundreds and hundreds of people, not obviously shopping in the shops, but like desperately looking for candy. And it was kind of an out of control situation. So I think before it happens again, there has to be kind of a regroup of the situation. So so someone wrote, oh, that's how the town used to get kids away from trick-or-treating on Halloween. And I was like, no. That was like an additional kind of fun weekend activity. Halloween is on, as always, in Rockport on Hawkeen, right? And people should be safe with their kids. And that's it. Anything to add? Anybody else? Go Sox.
Go Sox,
Sox.
we're
I'll
in.
make a
James
mo-
Taylor
So
singing the
soon.
national anthem at 7:57. I can't wait.
There you go.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. Motion carries. Great.